So, what have you learned about yourself from being on the road?
Wow, that's a really great way to put the question. I think that I've learned that I can exist in any atmosphere. And I wish I could sell the benefits of travel and how that teaches that to the world, not just other people on the spectrum. Travel, if we look at it from my experiences of running from cops in Eastern Europe, playing an eighth rate Jack Kerouac for the cheapest graduate thesis imaginable and living out of your car for 5 months, working odd jobs to pay for food and gas. From my end of the spectrum, that's great. But I really firmly believe that a significantly challenged individual on the spectrum can gain the exact same lessons by being taught and learning how to cross the street by themselves and buying a slice of pizza all on their own. What we're after when we travel are a couple of things. There's a removal from what existed before and an entry into unknown territory. And the removal from what existed before is so important because when you are that individual on the spectrum, and there's been some embarrassing moments, there's been the meltdowns, there's been the blow-ups, there's been the family difficulties, all that sort of jazz. Travel allows us to escape from that. And you know that the people that are surrounding you are giving you a clean slate. They're not remembering the fight from 3 months ago and wondering when that's going to happen. People don't really understand how crucial that is to get away from those atmospheres. Even when people say, oh, I forgot about that incident. No, you didn't. It's part of your makeup. It's part of your DNA. It's a part of the relationship now. So when you then get to go transpose yourself into a place where none of those memories exist, it's an absolute chance to try new things, to try new social skills. And, if it's a situation where you're, let's say, on the road, maybe, if you completely fall on your face with a new device that you decide to try out, who cares? Big whoop. You're never going to see these people again. Go try again with the modified lessons that you learned in the next town you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's heaven. But the other thing too, obviously, that I think from your organization is that you're learning about different cultures. And one of the beautiful things I find about autism is how the clinicians sometimes will never be able to pin it down because of the moving target throughout cultures of how, let's say, one particular cultural attribute of the autism spectrum gets passed through the cultural filters in the United States. And yet that resonates, let's say, maybe as a negative, where in, Sri Lanka, it's going to resonate as a positive. And this is what renders like all autism spectrum, global studies kind of moot, which you and I talked about earlier, is that you really can't quantify it that way. And that to me is beautiful. These behavioral differences pass through those cultural filters and makes you more of a pluralist. I was also, I should add, I don't think you and I did talk about this, but I was partially raised by grandparents. And this was what really set me off on the whole pluralism idea, because when you're raised only by your parents, you get this one idea of one generation's way of doing things. And it's this long, painful process of learning how to realize that your peers are creating a completely new way of doing things because that's your generation, and how to separate itself from the previous generation. But when you're partially raised by people of a completely different generation than your parents, it's not that you go from 1 to 2. It's that you conceive of the fact that there's not one, there's multiple. And what else is out there? Holy cow, how cool is that?
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.